on VOB's Down to Brass Tacks program on Monday, February 26, 2024. Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Transports and Works, the Honorable Santia Bradshaw, said this about contractors receiving upfront mobilization payments.
To be able to take advantage of the works, because as you saw, Prime Minister has basically provided us through Ministry of Finance with an additional $5 million. I am also hopeful that we can open up to other contractors, because there are a few others who have also indicated to our office that at least 3 players in the market will be ready by the start of the next financial year. So again, there are other companies who understand what accelerated mill and pave is, and who also understand that there are other opportunities for them to participate in road building exercises within the Ministry of Transport and Works. To try to single this out, to make this seem as though we are in some way unfairing a class of persons, is simply not accurate. It is not accurate.
The only thing that I would query here is the fact that from what you have said, you didn't come back to them to say, look, you were unable to participate earlier, but here's another opportunity with this accelerated program. Are you in a better position to respond? No. So it seemed to me as though a decision was taken that in as much as they were not ready previously, an assumption was made that they would not be ready now. That's what comes across.
I would say this to you, Alice. I think that in as I said earlier, in January, when the communication would have been made with Mr. Cherry, it was clear that he was not in a position to be able to supply asphalt. So that's one. Secondly, he will have to tell you why he has not applied for any of the other works under the ministry's programs to be able to do milling and paving for other roadworks programs. Because if this plant is operational, if he has all of his I's dotted and his T's crossed, and he is ready to go from tomorrow, he should also be able to tell you now if he can supply asphalt tomorrow, where he awarded a contract, and if he has everything in place, both in terms of mobilization on his own, to be able to start those works, because he hasn't answered those questions.
Minister, you want to answer those questions, and once you've answered the question, I want to hear from Mr. Robinson as well.
Minister, with all due respect, you're speaking, and you're speaking to the entire Barbados listening to you. You're telling me, and you're telling Mr. Robinson, and you're telling 26 other Black companies who hasn't had a paving job for the last 4 to 5 years, and all of their equipment is rotting down, that if we can start tomorrow, Mrs. Braffett, I think you're insulting us.
But I am not even sure.
But please, let me just finish. With all due respect to you, ma'am, we are here hurting. We have no money. We cannot get our workers paid. Mr. Robinson House get sell. I about to get sell out too. And we are begging you to pay us, and you are now insulting us and telling us we can start tomorrow. Let me explain. Ms. Braffett.
She's Bradshaw, you know.
My head is hurting. Ms. Bradshaw, if it's one thing that I'm no fool by no stretch of the imagination, and you're speaking to the public of Barbados, to us, the 98% of us. Remember, we are all listening to you. Ma'am.
Can you start tomorrow?
Let's go back.
Could you start next week? Could you mobilize in a hurry?
David, I want to answer it this way. To mill a road, you need to mill. You need to buy at least $200,000 or $300,000 in bitumen. If a house gets sold by one of my brothers, if I am on the track, how can I mobilize? If Ms. Bradshaw also said that I message her every morning and every night, as she responds, she honestly does respond every day, and I have utmost respect for her because she don't shy away from my messages. 90% of the messages is begging for me to get paid. If I was paid 2 years ago, I could have mobilized. I can't mobilize tomorrow, ma'am. So I answered that question. But please, can you pay me today? And yes, if I get paid today, I'll be able to mobilize tomorrow.
But in the Daily Nation on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, Ms. Bradshaw's ministry released this. Have a listen. The Ministry of Transport and Works, MTW, says it has no policy against upfront mobilization payments for roadworks projects. The release said, quote, "Mobilization payments are issued for a range of projects under the remit of the ministry. In instances where a mobilization payment is required by a contractor and the contract sum exceeds $50,000, the mobilization payment will be specified in a Solicitor General approved contract. An advance payment guarantee is tied to any contract which involves a mobilization fee. The guarantee is usually for a minimum of 10% of the total cost of the project. Consequently, the contractor would be required to deposit a sum of no less than 10% of the project's cost to the Treasury of Barbados, or provide a surety from a bank or an accredited insurance company for the same. The contractor is obligated to cover any expenses of the bond. Once all these requirements are satisfied, both parties will sign the contract, and the mobilization payment will be issued to the contractor immediately." End quote. Barbados, do you think this is a fair assessment?